acid, depending on where you get it. Depending on how strong your acid is, will determine how long your etch time is. Okay? Got our hair out of our way. This is called ferric chloride acid. Now, I got this from Radio Shack. You probably have some kind of electronics supply shop. Now, let's see. Warning, keep out of reach of children. Causes severe burns. Use only as directed. Intentional misuse by ingesting or eating the contents can be harmful, even fatal. Avoid contact with skin, eyes, and mucous membranes. Okay, don't get it in your eyes. Don't swallow it. No spitball fights with it. It's an acid. It's a chemical. Don't be a dick with it. All right, you can cause damage with this. It also stains pretty bad, so you might want to wear gloves. I could care less. Make sure you're wearing clothes that you don't care about because shit splashes. I like to have little wooden pokers so you can manipulate your board inside of whatever said container you're putting this acid in. These are just meat skewers, and these are really crappy tweezers. I could care less about these tweezers. Now, you might be asking yourself, where do you get a container from? Save those little boxes that all your batteries come in, because this is a perfect disposable, I don't give a crap about it, it's cheap as all hell, and if anything goes wrong, big shit box. You put your circuit boards inside, and if you've got a porcelain sink, that's a great place to put it. Don't do etching inside of a metal sink whatsoever, because this is designed to etch away metal. Okay? When you're disposing of the acid, okay, we're only going to fill up to the board level on this, okay? A little bit past. And we're going to let it sit, and it's going to etch away. When we're done, I'm going to fill the rest of this up, and I'm going to spill it in my toilet bowl. Because usually the plumbing to a home is plastic. If it's not plastic, it's probably lead. Either way, neither of those are affected by this ferric chloride. Ferric chloride will actually eat away some forms of steel and all forms of copper. So if you dump this down your drain, and your sink drain, and you have copper fittings, which a lot of people do, or a copper trap, which a lot of people do, it will sit inside that trap and slowly eat away. I've warned you, don't pour this down your sink. Pour it down the toilet. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and maybe, you know, etch some boards. You know, that's pretty much how-to. A couple of the boards are done etching, and now it's just a matter of piecing them together. Now, before you etch your boards, before you even draw, some of the things I'd like to mention is, when you have your copper board, use some steel wool and lukewarm water to scour the board and clean it off. Try not to get the oils of your hands on the board, like fingerprints and whatnot, because it will cause problems when etching. When you're etching, try not to do it in like really cold environment. When I was off camera doing some etching, I left my bathroom window open, and it's winter here, so it got really cold in there, and the etching didn't turn out right on the first batch. These are actually the second batch of boards. Now, I'm not actually going to go and put everything together on screen. I'm going to do it off camera because it's going to take a little while. But this is going to be the memory card adapter. Now, if you noticed in this memory card adapter, I've left a couple of extra solder points laying around. This is so I can actually attach like a pull handle, maybe a paper clip of some sort, because it's just a real pain in the ass to go and pull my first revision adapter out of the controller. This is going to be the card connector. That's actually going to be the female USB, the female Xbox connector. And of course, you know, I had some unused space on the back, so I decided to be a little creative because, you know, anyone that knows me knows that I like pie. This is going to be the SD card adapter. It's pretty straightforward. You know, got the BSOD URL on there. Huzzah. Really not going to get too much into detail on actually piecing things together because it's just soldering and getting things in the appropriate locations. Something I'd like to do is mention with the breakaway. I'm not going to show you how to build a breakaway because it's really simple. Once you etch the board properly, it's just a matter of soldering the appropriate connections. Bisecting the adapter can actually be quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. These PS2 to USB adapters are sometimes made out of a hard plastic that's hard to cut through. And if you're kind of clumsy with utility knives and razors, some quick tips. Use a hairdryer to heat up the plastic, make it nice and soft. Makes it really, really easy to cut through. Try to use a utility knife that has a thumb stop, and a palm stop. using a standard box cutter, like one of these, is actually a real pain in the ass. It'll actually, you got more room for mistake and more room for injury. When you're cutting into this, never cut into yourself. Always cut away. For something like this, I would highly recommend putting it in a desk vise of some sort and not holding it by hand. If you are going to hold it by hand, put your fingers behind the blade. Never put them in front, because if you slip off, you are clearly going to take off the tip of your finger. And if you are cutting away from yourself, make sure that there's no cables, parts, components, people, or furniture that you don't want to damage that are in front of you. Because if you slip off of that, you're going to cause serious amounts of damage to whatever's in front of you. So, you know, go get your gay dad or your annoying little sibling. Now, as for squashing the pipe, these pieces for the Xbox to USB thingy, just squashed it in the vise. What I'm going to do is, actually for this one, I've actually taken a couple of metal files, like so. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want it to look good. And I just, you know, just evened it out. You know, I took all the burrs off. You know, I went inside, rounded it off a little bit. You know, you really don't need high-speed Dremels or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to assemble some of this stuff and then get back to you and pretty much just recap. Here's the SD card adapter. Unfortunately, I was a careless ass and I burnt away the tracks on each side because I was impatient and decided to use my soldering gun. So learn from my mistakes. Don't use a soldering gun. What I did was I heated up the bracket, put some solder on it, and then, well, I pre-tinned these using my soldering gun, of course. And I tried to put this on, but you know, the super amount of heat that came off the soldering gun pretty much just burnt the track straight off. So, yeah, shit happens even to the best of us. That shows you what happens when you're patient. This thing looks like crap because I'm really trying to rush this because I'm getting really bored. Here's the SD card. It just slides in. You know, it matches up to all of the pin tracks. When you're designing your PCB, what you could do is you can actually leave spots on here where you can solder on pieces of copper. Like they have the copper standoffs to your motherboard. You can actually solder these on so you have mounting hardware to go and attach this to whatever. Or you can just make it slightly wider and put like little loops and whatnot that you can drill through and use it as screw mounts. So there's the SD card adapter. Broken as it may be, you know, with a little tender love and care and maybe some glue, it'll work. Who gives a crap? Using the advice about heating up your connector and cutting it, you know, along the sides, I was able to open up this connector no problem. But if you notice, there's like this waxy buildup stuff. If you just take this and snap it, you're going to pull all the pins out of your USB port. What you really would like to do is try to get this plastic wax stuff as hot as possible. Maybe even putting it fairly close to your stove or a lighter. And then at one point, hope to God you can actually break it away from the solder points that are on here without actually pulling them out. This is actually a hot glue, and of course hot heat makes hot glue heat up. So I'm actually going to go over to my stove right now, or try to find one of my butane lighters, and I'm going to try to melt this off. Don't use your soldering iron or your soldering gun, because if you put this, like if this stuff gets on your soldering iron or soldering gun, it can do damage. If you really don't care, you could try the chances of just stripping all this cable away. But you know what, to tell you the truth, I think I'm going to do that first, because there is a high likelihood of actually damaging this connector than separating it from the wires. Plus, I could use the wire, either way. Before we get to all of the business end, I'd like to show you something. For the Xbox controller memory card port, I sanded this part down a little bit so it's tapered. Now, I took my Xbox controller and I lined the inside with aluminum foil. Okay? Now, I'm going to solder my connector and my my pull pin onto the board, and then I'm going to seat this inside and line up all the pins, and I'm going to fill this entire thing up with hot glue, and then I'm going to let it set. And then when it dries, I'm going to pull the whole thing out, strip the aluminum foil away, and then there you go. You pretty much have a molded memory card adapter. Do not use epoxy. Do not use a putty epoxy. Do not use Play-Doh. They will not work. try to use something very soft and flexible, like a pencil with an eraser end, to go and mush the foil around the inside of this as much as possible. The tighter the fit you have and the smoother your foil, the better your project is going to look. Try not to break the foil too much. You do not want the hot glue gripping the sides of the controller, because then you're going to be taking your controller apart and with a fine pick pulling out little chunks of hot glue for a very long time. So I'm going to get to shaving this board down, soldering the connector in, and soldering on the eject thingy. I don't know what the hell it's called. I'm going to just call it the pull pin for now, because I don't know what else the hell to call it. Alright, so let me get to work on that. Here's the adapter that I just made. Now, I'm going to plug this end into the memory card, making sure that they all line up properly. Then I'm going to place this end inside the controller, and then I'm going to fill the entire thing up with hot glue. And like I said, you know, put aluminum foil around the side so it doesn't all stick. And then I'm going to set this aside, and as this cools and dries and all solidifies, I'll get to another project, or another PCB. Alright, slap this piece of crap together, same as the last one. What I've done was squished a piece of 1/2-inch diameter copper pipe, soldered on the fins from the floppy drive connector onto a PCB that was designed to match up with this, so I can just plug this in as is and it'll work. But with it being kind of flimsy and craptastic, this is going to slide over. I'm going to take a bolt, slide it through. Now I drilled the copper pipe, and then using the copper pipe as a pilot hole, I drilled the PCB inside of it. Okay, and we're going to put a nut on. Now what I like to do is actually put a second nut inside under here, so it'll kind of clamp onto the PCB and to the wire, and it keeps this from flopping around a little bit. And from this point on, you just plug it in. There we go. That's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say about this, except experience does count in this kind of project. I'll put whatever I can in the show notes if you need any help with any of this. I mean, I will definitely have a fully illustrated tutorial on how to do this Xbox connector adapter. Everything else is just, you know, I kind of threw it together. So, meh. I almost forgot to show you guys. This is the memory card piece that I made for the Xbox. It's not the prettiest looking, but it works well. Unfortunately, the pull bar broke off. I don't really know way of fixing it, so screw it. It's a little, you know, craptastic to pull out of the controller. You got to get your nails underneath and pull it out. Or if you got a USB keyboard or mouse or something that plugs in here that's kind of tight, it'll actually pull out with it. But for the most part, I can go to any Xbox controller and at least have one USB port at this point. So, there it is. You know, any questions or comments, hit the forums, hit IRC, hit the show notes. Have fun and good luck.